Why do you want to be governor of Indiana?
Well, I look at public service as something that maybe I had considered many, many years ago, and then life interrupts, and wife and I decided to move back to our hometown many years ago. She's had her only job as her business at 505 Main Street, a home accessory and gift store. 4 kids, 3 of whom run my business. Get the call she did to be on our local school board back in '04. She very articulately said no, but then offered me. So,
So you were voluntold.
So that's exactly. So I did that for 10 years. And then I get a call from our local state rep, who is now running, he's the congressional candidate, Senator Messmer, who's running down in the 8th for a U.S. rep, called me when he wanted to run for Senate. And that's when I got to the State House. And that was elected in 14, served in 15, 16, and 17, and gave up the second year of that second term to run for Senate. So coming back to run for governor, for as hard as that was to get to the U.S. Senate, I'm a big believer in term limits and would never have reneged on doing no more than 2 terms there. And sadly, as effective as our office has been in a very tough place to get anything done, I thought it made more sense to come back and run for governor. And of course, it was either or. And glad I did it. I'm glad I climbed that steep hill to serve proudly as a Hoosier senator, junior senator. I got a good record to bring back, but I think more things can be accomplished back here.
Like what?
Well, when it comes to issues like the high cost of health care, that's not going to be solved because you got to get 60 senators to agree to something. We can't get on any big issue any senator to generally agree with the other side of the aisle. The one side wants to grow government as every solution. Our side doesn't want to engage in the issues. To me, that's dysfunction. And you tried. We got a lot of legislation passed in healthcare, education, agriculture. Get named the most effective senator as a freshman. That means you know how to get it done, but to really change the agenda and have measurable results, I think that gets done state by state. And that's why I decided to come back and run for governor.
We asked our viewers and our readers, what's driving you to the polls in November? What are the most important issues to you? Of the people who responded, the number one issue, it was close, abortion. And it is largely illegal in Indiana with a few exceptions. Yeah. Are you satisfied with the law as it is today?
So it was returned to the states. That made sense. You're going to have 50 different viewpoints on it. I think that should have been resolved at the state level from the get-go. You're going to have one extreme position with no restrictions. I don't think that kind of dovetails with most Americans. That's the other side of the aisle. And then our side is going to generally be for something with reasonable exceptions. And I think our state legislature crafted that, and it's been upheld in the courts. It doesn't mean it goes away as an issue. I think the other side of the aisle will focus on it because it's divisive nationally, and it's still not maybe resolved, especially state by state, because many are at the point of finding out what that will be. You got referenda that are on that issue, and it evolves over time. So I think the law is the law. It's been out there. We were the first state to come up with it. We are a pro-life state. That doesn't mean that you get it right out of the gate. But for me, one that believes in the sanctity of life, it is the law. And if you focus on it only, I think then you're missing the opportunity of what you can do when it comes to kitchen table issues like high cost of health care. Half our budget is K through 12 education. We still don't have kids reading and learning arithmetic at the levels they should. Our workforce is still not trained properly. Rural broadband, affordable housing, child care, cost of electricity, availability of water. I think those will be the issues that you're going to appeal to the voters, where it's going to be that, not what you heard here. I think there's a strong minority in this state that's upset with that issue. I don't think that carries the day.
Taxes in the economy.
Yeah.
That was the close number two. 17% of respondents said property taxes specifically. Yeah. What would Governor Braun do to address property taxes?
I put that out there first because I'd say that's the number one issue. That's what I heard most about. That was created by my opponent's side of the aisle that gave us inflation when they doubled down on the healthcare crisis and grew government, borrowed the money to do it. That's why we've got inflated property tax values. And Mitch Daniels thought there was a cure to that when he put the circuit breakers in, but it didn't account for inflation. Mine is very common sense. Don't grow taxes at a rate faster than the robust growth of your economy. And if any local government or district wants more than that, be open in terms of a process with a referendum or a different form of tax where you take it to the people to make sure they want what you want. So my plan keeps us from going crazy over time, which it did over the last couple, 3 years. Jennifer McCormick came out with a plan shortly after that, not before it. So I'm proud that we put it out as a template. I would say that's the number one thing I've heard about. Taxes in the economy in general. I think Republicans, at least nationally, lead on that issue. And we've done a pretty good job over the last 20 years here. And I'll remind the public, back 20 years ago, we were a purple red state, in the red financially, until a guy named Mitch Daniels came along. So I want to build on that. I'm an entrepreneur, small business owner, live the American dream there. I think that gives me a lot of real world experience to use to take these issues I mentioned and go somewhere with them.
How does your property tax plan differ from your opponent, your libertarian opponent, Donald Rainwater's?
Well, I think his plan is to get rid of it over time. That's kind of impractical. There's no other replacement for it unless you'd raise, and this is for the basic services that I'm okay with. I think government should be strongest at the local level. I just don't want a system where you can raise revenues under the radar beyond a reasonable amount. His system has been panned as one that will not work. You couldn't gut basic government services. You'd have to find out how you'd replace it. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to lean government at every level to make it run more efficiently. Rainwater, I don't think, has ever had any experience doing it. Jennifer McCormick certainly hasn't. I'll tackle our 30 agencies to make sure they're well run, and I think I can squeeze savings out of them to help lower taxes, especially income taxes, especially sales taxes maybe in the long run. Property taxes are almost the exclusive way you pay for local government and school districts. They may have to look at other tools as well.
Results from Ball State University's annual Hoosier survey show year after year on the topic of marijuana.
Yeah.
Most Hoosiers believe it should be legal in some way. Only 10% believe it should be completely illegal. As governor, is that something that you are willing to talk about, to lead?
I always talk about being the most accessible governor we've ever had, which means you listen, even on issues that may not be your top 5 or 10. But you're right, we're now surrounded by every state that has some form of legal use of marijuana. Illinois and Michigan, both medically and recreationally. And Ohio, I think, just is looking at going from just medically to recreationally. Kentucky, I think, is medical use. So you can extrapolate from there, and that puts them in probably 37 out of 38 of our states. So I'm going to be listening to law enforcement. They're the ones that have to put up with whatever the consequences of it are. I've already talked to them. Most are very cautious about it. They're now trying to figure out, what do you do about folks going across state lines that bring it in illegally? You haven't heard much of that. That means that it's being tolerated, I guess. So we need to address it in some fashion because it's now surrounding us. And if you remember, we drug our feet on gambling, one of the last states to do it. Now I think per capita, we generate like the third most revenue from it. I think Hoosiers generally are leery about something changing, but inevitably want to do it in a practical way.
So would you support legalizing it?
I'm going to look at all the information. I'm going to tell you that's going to be an issue that's going to be out there for discussion.
I mean, I don't have to tell you how much money it's brought into these states.
No, and I think the fact that it's in every state around us, that's definitely going to be an issue that gets more airtime every year going forward. And for me, it'd be to get it right when we do it.
The economy in general, you mentioned that that's something that you're hearing on the trail. What are you hearing from people in terms of?
Most people are not feeling a robust economy. They're feeling Bidenomics, which has given us inflation. It's grown government jobs more than any. It's grown some places where we borrowed and spent money to help big business. But broadly, I think when it comes to small business, especially if you're not selling a necessity, and that's shown up a year ago where the economy started to slow down. Logistics companies, FedEx, UPS, laying off workers, even some of big tech would be. And that sugar high economy that the other side of the aisle created is now coming home to roost. They're going to try to emphasize the broad statistics, but when you drill into it, mostly government has grown, not the real economy on Main Street. That's what I'm worried about.
I think Governor Holcomb might disagree with you in Indiana, though, talking about how many businesses have been brought to Indiana.
I'm not saying that that's an important part of it. I'm just saying broadly, larger businesses always fare better than smaller ones. They've got the tools to do it. They've got credit lines. They've got flexibility. And I think we've done a good job on economic development. Most of the businesses we're bringing in need a whole lot of electricity and a whole lot of water. So those are not issues that we probably thought through well enough. I think I'll be able to clearly do that. But I'm talking about broadly, and that would be the thousands of smaller and medium-sized businesses that don't show up in the stock market, that don't show up in the measurement that you normally see nationally. This is from the trenches. I don't think they're doing as well as big business is doing, and I'll try to weigh in accordingly.
How do you do that? What might that look like?
That means you may be looking for we're a state that's got a good business climate. It's got one of the smallest startup percentages for new businesses, which is surprising, almost counterintuitive. I'm going to try to fertilize the field of smaller businesses and do it broadly geographically to where you're helping many to grow organically that can give you economic development in a way very similar to fishing in a couple of the very big ones that take a lot of resources to get them in the first place. And I will try to balance that out.
It was reported earlier this year, Indiana has the 8th highest healthcare costs in the country.
Yep.
That's another thing we're hearing a lot about. What could you do as governor, or do you plan to do as governor, to help Hoosiers out with healthcare?
Glad you brought that up because I tackled that in my own business 16 years ago. Was so sick and tired of hearing how lucky on insurance renewal I was that it's only going up 5 to 10%. I covered pre-existing conditions back then and had to take on the healthcare industry, especially the insurers, when they don't give you full information. All I can tell you, I built a system on my employees managing their own well-being, giving them every tool to stay well, to exercise prevention, and then when you do get into a healthcare scrape, giving them the best coverage on a catastrophic illness or accident. And then ask them to help me keep costs down by shopping around on your minor stuff. That's the way all insurance should work. Well, there hasn't been a premium increase in 16 years for the company that I ran for 37 years. I'm going to get some of that done. The healthcare industry disguises itself as free market. It doesn't embrace transparency. It wants to restrict competition. It doesn't compete like most businesses do. I'm going to ask them to get with it, and if not, remind them that Bernie Sanders would like to be their business partner, Medicare for all. I think that'd be a mistake, but I'm going to ask the industry to start fixing itself before the federal government has a bigger presence in it. And I've got a track record on what you can do.
Working with the state legislature in Indiana, the way that our setup is that it's a very strong, powerful body. Yeah. How do you work with them and make sure that what you would like to see happen as governor actually happens with the legislature?
This could be the most practical reason why you'd vote for me and not Jennifer McCormick. She's going to take the principles of a federal government that most Hoosiers, deeply through independents and even a few conservative Democrats, know does not make sense. I served with the committee chairs, served in the legislature 15, 16, and 17. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm going to get along. I'm going to have tons of discussions with the senators and the representatives. That is the way you take a supermajority, focus on the issues that benefit all Hoosiers, and you're going to get something done. If you try to bring big government ideas in and take that approach, as I think Jennifer McCormick would, you're not going to get the first base on any major issue with a conservative supermajority on the other side of the aisle.
We heard from Democrats today. I think they put out a statement saying that they believe that this race is much tighter than it was. You feel that?
Well, that's like a duh moment. I mean, they got rid of Biden on the national ticket, which I think was a train wreck into November, just come off of their convention. And that's shrunk margins at the national level. And those same margins get compressed at every state level too. That will dissipate over time. And when it comes down to the real issues, the kitchen table issues, I think Republicans hopefully will make that message at the national level. I think you need to stay on point there. I know I can clearly make that case here. So that's a snapshot in time. Just like when we came off of our convention a couple weeks earlier, margins were the widest that they were into the fall. That would have been when Biden was still around. They made that adjustment. That's put them in a better place, but that won't be how the governor's races across the country are litigated. That'll get back to the issues we talked about.
What can you do, what will you do to get young people in this state to fall in love with Indiana and want to stay here and build a life here?
Well, we got 70 counties that are shrinking in population, that many until a couple, 3 years ago didn't have any high-speed internet. They were trying to figure what is the next act. I'm going to make sure that rural broadband gets into every nook and cranny in our state faster than what it's been doing. Urban areas have been blessed with that. Most of our state hasn't. Current administration's done a decent job at that. For them to come back, you're going to have that minimally, or you won't start a family. You probably won't build a business. I got to think back of what brought me and Maureen back many, many years ago. Well, internet wasn't even on the radar then, but we could see in a wonderful place like Jasper that has bucked the trend and grown in our county. Look at where we have lived. How do we spread that out across the rest of the state? And I'm just so thankful that we decided to come back then, put you in a good place to see what young people would want to do now. And by the way, 2 of our 4 kids live in our hometown. They would not have done that had I not scrapped away at that business because they viewed that as opportunity. I want to make sure that's happening across the state.
Finally, who is Mike Braun beyond the man running for governor? Yeah. Tell me about, what do you like to do on a Saturday when you're not working?
Hunt or fish, spend time on my farm. I didn't grow up on a farm, but have lived on one ever since. I rolled up my shirt sleeves and started a little business, turned it into regional, then national company, American dream, 3 of your 4 kids. Kids even wanting to be associated with a business is unusual. Those are all things that I've been blessed with. Smartest decision my wife and I ever made. When I was headed to Wall Street out of business school, we turned the other direction. That would have been probably the most lucrative thing to do, but we moved back to our hometown. And everything I like to do is mostly within a 60-mile radius of where I live. And I've had the benefit of being able to see all 92 counties. I visit every one of them. Have done that every year. I've invited any Hoosier to come down and see my beautiful hometown, and we can talk any issue. I think that's me. I get along with people. You have to be a real kind of obnoxious individual for me not to sit down and discuss something with you. And I ran my business that way, and I've tried to take that approach. The 3 years I was representing our district in the State House, in the 5.5 years I've been in the Senate. So accessible, entrepreneurial, everything I like to do is pretty Hoosier related.